one thing I'm really fascinated by is how much you guys have to do in terms of prep for a broadcast. With the season being so condensed, it has to cut down exactly what you can do to prep. I mean, what is that process like? I know it's only, we're only a couple games in to the first week, but what is that process like for you in such a condensed schedule?
Well, one thing that's really cool is our play-by-play guy on the Mavs broadcast, Mark Followell, is really brilliant. Aside from being really good at calling the game, and aside from having a great voice, his voice is ridiculous. The dude is knowledgeable. He goes to the same websites you guys go to. He's really into the game. He's into advanced statistics, all those types of things. So, I put in a lot of work because I'm a basketball nerd. I care a lot about it, and if I didn't have these gigs, I would be putting in tons of work just because before I was working in the media, I was nonstop basketball guy. That's just who I am. So I really dig knowing that I can pretty much go anywhere, and even if Followell and I haven't discussed it, he's going to be able to go there because I know that he's done the work. And then we also have Derek Harper on the broadcast, which just is a really unique deal for me. I grew up here. Yeah. My favorite player growing up was Derek Harper. I mean, and not only that, my second team as a kid was the Knicks, and so Harp gets traded to the Knicks, and they go, compete for a title. So I'm sitting next to Derek Harper, who I idolized as a kid. So it's a very unique situation for me. So the three of us have a really good respect for one another. I know what the other guys know. They know what I know. So we can kind of take it anywhere. And then on the production side, like the guy who's producing the broadcast now, his previous job was our stats guy. So he's very heady about basketball as well. So the main thing about a broadcast that, most people, if you're watching this right now, you're a basketball nerd. So you want information and you want all those things. The majority of people that watch a broadcast, they're not. It's my mom going, well, where's JJ Barea? I don't understand. So you got to think in terms of the broadcast has to be for those people because we're going to do the work. You guys are going to do the work. We're basketball people. You got to do the broadcast for the people that might check in once every week and a half and they have no idea who is this Delonte West? What is happening here? That's who the broadcast is for. And so you just got to think in terms of there's a lot more that we could unleash basketball-wise, but that's not for the greater good. We got to pull back and pick and choose our spots to where we want to hit people up with the good hardcore basketball information.
Okay, I'm going to give you a choice here for my last question. I will either ask you to talk about how special it is to be able to discuss basketball on a daily basis with Rick Carlisle and his genius, or give us your best Brian Cardinal story.
Wow. Can I double dip? I mean, you've just put me in this awkward position where it's like, hey,
sure, do them both. Go
awesome.
for it.
With Carlisle's a very unique individual. And because he's not like the most personable guy, and he's insanely smart. So he's got this bit about, and he says it about the players all the time, where he wants to make them uncomfortable. He wants to keep them on edge. And think about that. In this day and age of players, coaches, and all this kind of garbage, he knows you don't win a championship with a bunch of guys that are comfortable. How does he know this? He was on the '86 Celtics. He knows this. He's a Chuck Daly disciple. He knows these things. And so he's got to figure out ways to keep guys on edge. And the byproduct of that is you should see like these media sessions before we all go in and ask him questions. And guys are like, so what's to ask Rick this question, and have him shoot you down and make you look like a fool. So, I really dig working with Rick. And one of the things is I've got a pretty good relationship with Donnie Nelson. He's become a friend over all this time. And so I don't know how much you guys remember about the tail end of the Avery Johnson era, but Avery's biggest flaw was just having this sort of clinging to what he wanted to do and being completely inflexible regardless of the players that he had and not changing to adapt to those players. And so when the Mavericks were going to bring another guy in, they wanted to bring in a guy who they thought was a really genius offensive mind to take advantage of. We've got Dirk. We don't have the best offensive guys around him. How can we make the most of this? When Dirk was getting grilled nationally for the Golden State series, people that knew basketball knew that there was nothing happening on the weak side. It was Dirk being loaded up on the strong side, and suddenly Stackhouse catches the ball 20 feet from the basket with 2 seconds left. That's bad. You're not going to win any basketball games that way, and
That's
it's
exactly
not
what
Dirk
you want.
Nowitzki's fault. Oh, but isn't that great? Okay, so the one guy that can't shoot, let's give him the ball with 2 seconds left. So the Avery thing had become a disaster. And so when you follow a team from afar, you get these stories. And so I knew that Indiana had wanted to run more, but Rick the transition never worked out. Well, it never worked out because I don't think Rick was comfortable just turning the keys over to Jamal Tinsley and saying, let's do it, boys. And so when Rick got here, the idea was they were going to run the Princeton offense. And it was going to be this passing, motion, passing cut offense. He scrapped it 3 weeks into the season because he didn't have the passers. Josh Howard's not a Princeton offense guy, okay? And so that was big to me that you spent this time in your first training camp instilling these Princeton principles, and then you get here like, ain't going to work. Let's move on. And I thought that was a really good example of his, offensive mind and seeing these things. And, okay, this didn't work. I'm not going to stick to this and force it. Let's get on down the trail. And that's real early in his to why the success they've had with the roster that they've had. Real quickly, Brian Cardinal story. Very, very new. Cardinal, if you guys know, like the Bill Murray and Brian Doyle Murray and all his brothers, they've all got this kind of like personality, and it's all like this North Midwestern thing, and all the guys have the same personality. Cardinal's kind of got that personality, maybe a little bit like Carl from Caddyshack, kind of like, talks a little bit like this and kind of got this thing going. And so I knew we could goof around with him. And so when the Mavericks played their one preseason game in Oklahoma City, we did a prank on Sean Marion because they stay in the Skirvin Hotel, which is supposedly haunted. So I got with Marion. I was like, hey, dude, let's do like this ghost hunter bit, and we'll walk the halls, and I'll tell you these ghost stories from the hotel. And I knew Cardinal would be down, so I told Cardinal about it, and he hid in my shower. And so we finally go through the halls, we do all this storytelling stuff, and then we get to my room, and we go in the bathroom, and there's a camera crew there, so Marion knows he's been being filmed. And so I'm like, okay, so the legend is that you can hear Effie when you're in the bathroom, and she might proposition. I go, do you hear that? And we're pausing, we're looking up, and then BOW! Cardinal jumps out of the shower, and man, Sean Marion just like frees up, freaks, and runs out of the room. And I'll retweet it later if you haven't seen it. It's a really funny bit. But having Brian Cardinal on the team, one, it's great when the last guy on the bench, you call on him and know exactly what he's going to do every single time, and he delivers. That's the definition of a 12th man. That's what Cardinal does. And two, he's a funny dude that you can do pranks with. So I love having Cardinal here. I think the guy's great.
Hey, thanks a lot, Skin. These are not only awesome stories, but also insight into what's going on in Dallas. Check this guy out on Twitter, @SkinWade, and hopefully we can get you back on later when Dallas is on a little bit of a roll and a little more fun to watch.
Yes, good times, boys. Would love to do it again. Thanks a lot.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks, Ken.